Hello, everyone. I'm once again joined my father for another movie review. Say hi, Dad.
Hi, everybody.
In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 1953 War of the Worlds, based on the H.G. Wells novel. What do you think of this movie, Dad?
I think it's a really excellent movie,
I couldn't agree more.
and it has a lot going for it.
It
You
does.
have to take into perspective when the novel was written,
Right.
and also it's produced by George Powell,
Yeah.
who was very much an innovator
Right.
in the field of animation and stop motion animation.
Right.
The production values are great,
Oh, they are.
and the cast I think is excellent.
I agree.
And I really think that it holds up today.
Absolutely. Like, when we were rewatching it for this video, I'm always still amazed with how blown away with the special effects in this film. How they're still amazing to and they still hold up, especially I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars. People talk about how groundbreaking that was. People forget to talk about this film with its groundbreaking
Right.
special effects. And I do love the characters a lot in this movie. I think they're very I mean, they are straightforward, but I still think that they're very interesting characters. Like the one,
Mm-hmm.
who was that guy with the glasses and who was the professor of
Yeah, that was Gene Barry.
yeah, he's
Mm-hmm.
he's the kind of character that he was a smart guy, intelligent, and he was a professor, and the part when him and that girl are at some random house that whoever used to live there don't live there anymore because of the alien invasion attack. He's explained to her how that he's not married, but his family died when he was a kid. He never really remembers or knew them, and
Mm-hmm.
how he's a college professor. He has no family, but he lives on a college campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it adds a little bit more to the emotional
Yeah,
impact and gives depth to that particular
it
character and
does.
also the girl too, the
Yeah, that
woman.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She was telling her she was working on her master's degree, and I don't remember what it was
Mm-hmm.
exactly, but I remember asking do you think it was it worth it? It worked for you? She goes, yes, it did.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, whatever works. And also the other thing I like about this film too, you have the army working with him, you basically have professors are smart and intelligent work trying to figure how to work with each other because of their different opinions or what they believe is the right choice and the right move in this kind of situation, because you have aliens attacking. It's what do you do
Right.
in this situation and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you need a cooperation with different aspects. You know,
Yeah.
the military, the scientific
Yeah.
world, to try to come up with a plan.
Right. But they seem to work all right together from seeing the film. There's not
Mm-hmm.
I can't recall if there was ever maybe yeah there was disagreements, but there was not any beef or tension where there was not any crazy dramatic moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also we see how how the whole world, it's basically not just affecting one, but the whole world is being affected by
Right.
this.
Right.
It's because we lived through what would you call I guess, well, actually this would be World War III, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, especially at that time, this was during the Cold War for its time,
Right.
and this is metaphorically what the fear of World War III could have been if one
Mm-hmm.
or the other could have nuked each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, um, oh yeah, I don't know if you know this. Originally, Cecil B. DeMille was supposed to direct this film, years before this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Good. I mean, great director, Cecil B. DeMille. But it's just hard to I mean, I haven't seen a lot of his film, but I just can't imagine him in this. You know what I'm saying? Would you say this would be his style of filmmaking, a sci-fi? But sometimes you never know, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's really not known for that.
Right.
He's known for historical
Right.
epics,
Exactly.
and whatever he would have done with it, I'm sure it would have been a real
It would
spectacle.
have been.
It would have been interesting to see his take on it. But,
Yeah.
I think the way the movie is you couldn't improve much on it.
No. No. Also, Hitchcock was a consider again.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of respect for Hitchcock, great talented filmmaker, but he's not the first guy that comes to mind in directing a sci-fi film.
Right.
He's more of the film noir, suspense, thrillers, and a little bit of horror thrown in.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because at that time, after when Cecil B. DeMille was not going to direct it, he said, "Oh, let Hitchcock." He suggested Hitchcock direct it, but then Hitchcock was just
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really 100% sure whether he turned it down or he was not interested or just did not think this is not my kind of film.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I'll have to
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll have to look into that. Also, we have to talk about also the famous like how back in I think it was 1930. I don't remember. I know it was the late 30s, but the famous Orson Welles
Yes.
radio. How I think it was Halloween 1930. I don't remember the exact year, but it was he's basically doing like a reenactment broadcast of War of the Worlds, and he made people go into panic, putting fear in people thinking that there really was aliens
Right.
attacking.
Right. You have to remember at that time there was no television.
No.
So people families used to gather around the radio
Right.
and listen to different broadcasts
Right.
of. They would have different stories. They would not only news, but they would have radio programs, comedy, drama,
Right. Dick Tracy and
suspense,
yeah.
thrillers.
Also, Abbott and Costello before they did the
Right.
movies at that time. That's
Right.
how people knew
Mm-hmm.
Abbott and Costello from the radio shows they had.
So they broadcast this invasion using local areas, saying that that these objects were seen coming down, in the area of whatever it may have been in New Jersey,
Yeah.
so that it made it feel like this was really happening. Uh, Even though from what I read that they did give intermittent uh, announcements that this was just a play and it was not
Right.
actually happening.
Right.
But I guess either people didn't listen to that or they
I don't
missed
know.
that part of it, and they
Yeah.
got so caught up in the possibility that we were actually being invaded
Yeah.
by Mars.
Right.
So there was a big panic over this, and it
Right.
became very famous
Right.
throughout history.
Right.
This broadcast of Orson Welles.
Yeah, I remember the first time I learned about it was in film classes. Before we watched Citizen Kane, we watched this documentary about. I think it was like I don't remember. It was like an autobiography on Orson Welles, or it was just about the making of Citizen Kane in general. And they talked about that part, and that just blew my mind. I'm like, oh wow, I never would have known or guessed that about
Mm-hmm.
him. That he did a radio broadcast back in the 30s, and people like went into panic, thinking, "Are we being attacked?" And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, Orson Welles, he was a boy genius. He
Right.
was very young,
yeah,
and he would work on different radio programs, and basically travel from one studio to the next.
right,
To keep up with these. They were live broadcasts, and so he had to be in one place for one time, and then very soon after that, when that finished, he'd have to go to the next place.
right,
And he had his own group of people. It was called the Mercury Theater.
right,
They did their radio work, and also they were very important in his films,
right,
like Citizen Kane,
yeah,
and The Magnificent Ambersons.
right,
And Orson Welles also was very famous on Broadway. He had very innovative approach to different plays by Shakespeare and other things. That's why he was given carte blanche. You can do whatever you want. You have full control of this movie, which was Citizen Kane at RKO Theaters.
right. It's amazing that didn't ruin his career within 5 minutes after that, like
It practically did, because
Wow.
Afterwards they would not give him full control,
Right,
and the Magnificent Ambersons was cut very much so that not to his liking. He wasn't even in New York when that happened. He was filming something in South America called "It's All True."
right,
It was a documentary type feature, so he had lost contact with what
Right.
was happening, to his film.
right,
And that's one of the lost films, the actual Orson Welles cut of the film, which is not in existence now, but there's people that still search for it,
right.
hoping that it'll end up in somebody's attic or somebody's basement.
Hey, if they found Edison's Frankenstein back in I think 2010, there's still a chance I could find that. And
Yeah,
London
you
after
never know.
London After Midnight with Lon Chaney Sr. So
Yeah,
you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
It'll show. It can show up somewhere.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. London After Midnight, but that's a different story. And also, I also want to talk too about how like the differences, like the little. Well, I read the book. Well, I still haven't finished reading the book. What I read about, it's like basically a guy like narrating, and I understand how the book it takes place during like the Victorian era for its
Right,
time.
right.
I have like a theory, like an opinion, like the reason why this movie takes place in modern 50s. Maybe they didn't think that if they said it like just like the book during the Victorian era time, no one would take it seriously at that time with like aliens attacking during the Victorian
Hmm.
era, especially with the style of clothing at that time too.
Yeah, I think they wanted to make it more relevant,
Yeah,
and it works.
and no, it
It
does. It
works.
works out just fine the way it is.
But
I'm
the way you also have to look at H.G. Wells and how brilliant he was
yeah,
to come up with this concept,
yeah,
and even more brilliant to come with the ending,
right. Oh yeah, the ending is great
which we will not give you and spoil it.
right now, but
But it's for that time with the limited medical and scientific knowledge that they had at that time for him to come up with this,
right.
I think was really amazing.
Right. Well, the other thing too, I also want to bring up just before, like, just like when the world is like, coming to an end and being attacked by the aliens. You see, like, the church. That's like a symbol of like, faith, and like that was like the
Hmm.
last thing that people were
Right.
looking for resource. It's kind of like similar to like the Invader from Mars ending, where he's running out of his resource, doesn't know who to trust, and the difference is they just don't know what else to do at this point in time. Like, are they really going to sacrifice and give up and surrender to the aliens, or will
Hmm.
some miracle happen so that we just did not expect to see them
Right.
coming? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Still, just terrific, excellent, like special effects. I think still they're still like amazing to me. To like, I remember the first time I remember like when in 2005 the remake came out with Steven Spielberg. But at that time, I had no idea that was a remake at the
Hmm.
time, and
Hmm.
I did not really care for the Stevens. I still don't really care for, despite giving it a re. Well, I'll do a separate video on that because I wanted to do this and the Spielberg, but that's all right. That'll be for another time. And
Hmm.
I wanted to go solo on this film anyway. This deserves its own review.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, it really is a classic in science fiction
absolutely.
that I would urge everybody to see.
Yeah. What did you think of? Well, even though I know it's been a while since you've seen the Spielberg reel, what did you think of it? What you saw at the time? And
Well, when I saw it, I liked it. I thought it was well done, and it had the same, carried the same spirit and emotional impact.
right,
And it was also updated,
yeah,
obviously.
but
But still, I enjoyed it. I'll have to revisit it and see if I have any
yeah.
other ideas on it.
Well, I rewatched. Well, here's just a brief thought. I don't know. When I saw it as a kid, I didn't really care for. I remember like it was a movie that people raved about at the time, and I was
Hmm.
just like, like shaking, like shrugging myself, like, yeah, like what's so special about this movie? Especially how like a few years, well, before I knew about the movie's history, the original also made me think about Independence Day a few years prior to that, and
Hmm.
but again, that was before I knew about history of cinema with the other like groundbreaking effects before those kind of films. And
Hmm.
also I can see like Spielberg was also trying to go for like at that time it was post 9/11. At that time he was trying to go for that post 9/11 feel to it. And
Hmm. Hmm.
also, I mean, Tom Cruise, great actor, but I just did not find his character that interesting in that movie for some reason.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I just and then I didn't see this original till 2018 when I was at least 24 at the time, and
Yeah.
because
I haven't seen the Spielberg one in a while, so I
yeah,
really would have to take another
yeah,
look at it.
it seems to have like either a fan file. It's like one of those movies. It's either liked or disliked. Me,
Hmm. Hmm.
I could take it or leave. And also the CGI was That's why I prefer this one. The effects are amazing, and we're
Hmm.
in that. Well, because again, that's well, even though like as great as talent Spielberg was, he was like basically going for the CGI because of saving money and the cost for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. When I was rewatching, I don't think I didn't even bother to finish. I'm like, nah, I'm really just not.
Hmm.
Wasn't doing it. Sorry, Steven Spielberg. As much as he's a great, talented guy, I have a lot of respect for, but not his War of the World remakes for me.
Hmm.
It happens. Even a great director can't always make everything a masterpiece.
Hmm.
Yeah. Any other thoughts you have in mind about this film you want to touch upon, or
No, I think we
yeah?
talked about.
There is also one that I want to bring up. I remember back when I used to watch the Nostalgia Critic, he almost considered doing an old versus new of the original War of the Worlds and the remake. And he said that the reason why he didn't do it because he didn't find any of them like appealing. He didn't find the characters interesting. My advice: he should reconsider because in the original, the War of the World characters are much more interesting than the remake.
Well, I found the characters in War of the Worlds, the original, I found them to be developed and
Yeah,
compelling, and
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I guess that wraps about everything we
Okay,
touched upon. Like the video, subscribe, hit that bell button, and we'll see you more for next time. Actually, despite, even though it's been Sci-Fi September, we're going to end it with a Casablanca review. How's that sound?
that sounds good.
See you next time.
Bye bye.